it gives you motivation, and it also makes it's much easier for me to spend 100 hours working on something and working 20 hours a day if I know I'm helping someone with that, if I know that there is a greater cause. It's much easier to do it than if at the end of the day I'm saying, oh, I made money for a lawyer. I don't care about lawyer. Hello and welcome to the Dev and Doc podcast, where doctors and developers have conversations about AI in healthcare. I am Željko, I'm your co-host, the developer, and with me is
Josh, the doctor.
Awesome. What will we be talking about today, Josh?
So today, something a bit less technical and a bit less medical. I just wanted to share my journey and my 5 tips on how a doctor or a clinician can get into AI and health tech. Because this is the thing that everyone asks me about. Like, I speak to a lot of doctors when I'm working, and without fail, I think everyone is interested in AI. It's thrown around a lot. The next question that follows from every single doctor is, oh, okay, what do I do? How do I get in? And in a selfish way, I just wanted this podcast to be here so that I can say, look at the podcast. I want to stop explaining this. Yeah, so 5 key tips is what I want to offer today.
Very nice. Yeah, I think that makes sense. To be honest, I was rarely asked by doctors, how do they get into AI? I was thinking that will be more often because I'm on the AI side, but maybe they also think like, oh, what I'm saying is too advanced, so they just ignore me then and they're like, oh, okay, you do your stuff.
Maybe you scare them off. You're too technical.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
Do developers ask you how to get into healthcare?
Never.
Something for another episode. We need to explore why.
Yeah, I think I get asked other things, but never really how to get into healthcare. I think there are not many developers that go into healthcare. This is another topic we can explore in the future, but
highlights why.
I think it will be more when there are more companies in healthcare, so more developers will want to be closer to that and work in companies. But working in like hospitals and public health and all of that, it's not a fun job for a developer. I know every developer in most of these hospitals. I know most of IT people there. And man, it doesn't look like a fun job. I don't know. The IT system still needs quite a bit improvement there so that it's fun for developers, so that developers can do something. It's hard to develop when the IT infrastructure is a mess. So I think needs a bit of time.
Is it also the perks? Because, obviously these big tech companies, Meta, Google, Amazon, they all offer perks, good pay, good lifestyle. I don't know, I've seen the pictures of the Google office. It looks like a playground.
Yeah.
Is that part of it?
It's for sure one part. But yeah, I mean, the salaries are like 6 to 10 times bigger in Meta and Google than they are in the NHS. And sure, money is not that important, but man,
it is
10 times more
point,
is...
Right?
Yeah, exactly, up to a point. Exactly. If you here have to basically survive somehow with your basic NHS IT developer salary something, you do prefer a bit of a more leisure life with those Meta salary and Google salary and something like that.
Yeah, I don't blame them. I mean, it's only logical, but this is where we should be incentivizing more developers to come and work in the NHS, but it's very difficult. The pay structure is very rigid, not much room for negotiations.
Yeah, and there is, I don't know with whom was I speaking about this recently, but there is also not much, many people don't care about money. Many people have made a lot of money and don't care anymore. So, but there is also not a lot of room for advancement and not a lot of perspective there, because as a NHS developer, at least from what I know from the hospitals, you get to a position of basically a senior developer where you are still doing basically the same job as the junior developer, and there is no more advancing from there. That's it. You end up still doing your small projects. You end up still helping whoever needs whatever. There is no real like IT team or IT people that are building and developing and making things. It's just very basic. So
look, we can explore this more in depth, but today let's focus on the clinicians and how to get into health tech. But before we do that, why don't you tell me what's the best thing / most enjoyable thing in your opinion of working in this space? And maybe this can be a pitch to the wider, developers and doctors. What do you love about working in the NHS and developing in the NHS?
Man, you put me on a spot here, but okay.
It should be easy. Come on.
No. Yeah, but it is also like you. Sure. From my side, like for me, it was very easy. I was before this in an industry. I was before this in working legal and all of that. And what I wanted, my main goal was to help people. And what better way to do that than to be part of the NHS? What better way to do that than to be part of healthcare and medicine? And that's the simplest reason why am I like attracted to this field, or why do I want to work here. And there is also a bit of the selfish part in that. So there is the part where I want to, at the end of the day, go home and be happy with the work I've done. So there is a bit of that, because I'm doing it also for myself. I feel much better if I, at the end of the day, say like, okay, the study we have done today has a potential to change how we, treat cancer. That still didn't happen, but hopefully in the future. I'm just giving an example. So that it gives you motivation, and it also makes it's much easier for me to spend 100 hours working on something and working 20 hours a day if I know I'm helping someone with that, if I know that there is a greater cause. It's much easier to do it than if at the end of the day I'm saying, oh, I made money for a lawyer. I don't care about lawyer. The only thing he got now is he's richer and he'll buy himself some more expensive wine or whatever. I don't care about that. Here I'm like, okay, you help someone. So that's my reason.
No, that rings true to a lot of, I'm sure, clinicians in the NHS. We're not doing it for the pay. Like, it literally is just, our interest, our, devotion to care for the patients. Like, it is very fulfilling, and it's something that you can call it selfish, you can call it altruistic, but it is really a great feeling when you come home and you feel like you have helped someone. It's very important to me that I'm doing something that's, I feel is good, is benefiting the society. But then also the kind of more selfish side of me is also, apart from doing clinical work, I do love research and innovation. Like, I really get a buzz off just feeling like I'm working in a field that's, cutting edge and that's fast growing and that has the potential to deliver impact. And that's one of the main reasons why I went into research, and one of the main reasons why I went into AI.
And I think that's also one of the reasons why I love AI. I think AI has the potential to help more people, basically, to expand my reach, for me to have the biggest impact. I feel that can be done via AI, because AI feels like a multiplicator. It feels like I can make one AI that is helping diagnosing patients, and every doctor in the world can use that. So I think that's the potential of AI. Once you make one model here in King's College Hospital in the UK, you can then deploy that model easily in every hospital in the world that can then help. So I think that's why I think everyone should be working on AI, because or everyone should be at least trying to understand AI and seeing how do we work together with AI.
Yeah, and it's like that with research and drug discovery. You know, Alexander Fleming discovering penicillin, the antibiotic, that saved more lives than you can ever save, you know, single-handedly. You know, it's a game-changing transition. Yeah, and that's what drives me to do research on AI as well. But yeah, let's go into a bit. I mean, you touched on a bit of the kind of topic that we want to talk about today, and that's how a doctor can get into AI. So I think one of the first tips, like when I was first getting into this field, is I thought AI was just, you know, one topic. AI in healthcare, I thought, okay, one topic, easy peasy.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one chapter of a book. But then I realized, oh wait, it's actually a collection of many topics and many skills. So I just want to boil it down to, in my opinion, and feel free to add more, but in my opinion, you know, the first and foremost is the healthcare knowledge. That's probably the easy bit for clinicians. We have been working in healthcare for a while. And then, so the first thing I actually studied was, you know, machine learning or health, you know, AI knowledge / machine learning. And there's many things you can study. There's lots of resources on YouTube. There's this podcast. There's also, I don't know if you've done this one, but you know, Stanford CS 229 with Andrew Ng. He's like the legend of machine learning. It's very stats heavy, that course, but it gave me such a nice insight into machine learning. Did you do that course as well, or did you do a university one?
Yeah, no, I've done that one also, but yeah, I've done it. That course is like there for the past, I think, 15 years. So I think I've done that a long time ago while also taking my university course. So usually, I mean, probably the same as everywhere else. While taking university courses, you usually also take a couple of parallel courses that you find on YouTube or somewhere else, just because some of the topics are a bit tricky to understand. So
yeah,
nice
it's very well explained. I would recommend it to anyone. It's really just Google Andrew Ng, NG.
Yeah, note that course is a bit hard. So
True.
That course is, I think, one point that you need to decide as a doctor is what do you want to learn? What kind of a AI person do you want to be, maybe? Because that course is really going into the basics, and you'll need to understand how machine learning works. You'll go into a lot of math, a lot of stats, a lot of like algorithms that I don't know, depends what you will be using and how will you be interacting with AI, maybe.
Yeah, we'll come back to that because that's point 2 actually, understanding the intention. But so far we've covered, okay, so to learn about AI, you need to know about healthcare, you need to learn about AI kind of machine learning basics. Third thing, coding skills, maybe, you know, up for discussion, but I do think every clinician should know the basics of coding, just even like how it looks in the back end, like Jupyter Notebook or whatever you use, just understanding what it looks like. And I don't know, for me, it helped me grasp a lot more about what's happening behind the scenes. Instead of looking at a model, I can actually see, oh, it's actually running these codes, you're transforming this data. To me, it helped me have a more clear grasp of the aspects. I don't know what you think about coding and if clinicians should know about coding.
A hard question, to be honest. I think if it helps you, probably it's good to learn a bit, just because it's basically like learning a new language. Like programming also has their own programming languages, so it's learning a different way of thinking. I think it's always nice to know the basics, and for sure it will be useful. I think this goes much wider than clinicians. I think every person in the world should know a bit about coding, and just a very, very basic, so that there are many areas where you can apply it. So I think it's nice to know the basics.
Yeah, and there's lots of courses online, normally Python courses. So
Yeah.
like Coursera, I use DataCamp, there's Hyperion Dev, there's all kinds of coding courses, even YouTube. You can learn the basics of coding there.
Yeah, DataCamp is my favorite for these.
Yeah,
I mean,
same.
for learning the basics. So you have like introduction to Python that is very, very easy. You also have like exercises after every lecture. So it is very nice.
So those are the kind of topics or the curriculum of AI in healthcare. And how deep you go really depends on your intention. So that brings us on to our tip number 2, and that's understanding your intention. So where do you want to be in health tech or AI as a doctor? Do you want to be someone that's building the models? Do you want to be someone that's directing the research? Or do you want to, because normally we would work with developers, so like Jelko, like what do you think are the levels of understanding that you would expect a doctor to have when they're working with you?
I think having some very high level understanding, but knowing that it is strange to say this, but having a high level understanding, but knowing it in details. So like it is very nice when you are talking with a doctor, when you are talking with your supervisor or someone, and they understand. If you say like, oh, I need to prepare the data, I need to have a training set, I need to have a test set, I need to calculate my metrics. If doctors understand that, then the conversation becomes very easy. I will never ask a doctor like, oh, but what do you think about, I'm here working with self-attention, but I'm not sure about these parameters, should I switch it around? Or I will never ask that a doctor, nor do I expect that they know how to answer that.
But you expect to work with them, and then they can direct you to like the feature selection or the data sets, like the things that need clinical knowledge, like curating the correct training data sets.
Yes.
And things like that.
Yeah, that would of course be awesome. So if someone knows, like understands in general how a machine learning model works, or how machine learning models work in general, and then knowing that, okay, based on that and based on the task, this data set maybe fits that perfectly because this data set has the right knowledge, is maybe pre-processed already, has the, is de-identified and all of that. So understands like what are the pieces that are necessary to train a language model.
But and we mentioned different levels. So let's say maybe a clinician that isn't involved in hands-on research but wants to maybe have more regulatory oversight, or maybe they're like a clinical director and they want to have a say in the direction that AI is taking in the hospital. How much depth do you think they need to go in the curriculum? Like probably learning to code there is not an essential, probably just preferred. Is there anything you think they should really know if they're sitting higher up, something that they must study?
I think what it depends mostly is also how much do they want to get involved. I think in general in those cases you will have that clinical research director, but they need to have a partner. They need to have a partner or even someone under them or something like that who is extremely technical, who understands the computer science side. Again, it doesn't make sense that the clinical researcher, the director of clinical research knows everything about how to make models. So I think, again, it is for those high-level positions, I think what makes most sense is that they have a general understanding, but a very well, know it very well, but a general understanding of the AI field and how it works.
I agree. I think if you're sitting more high level, just having a grasp of these machine learning models and how they sit in the organization with a kind of technical supporter would be perfect. But I think if you're like me, who is someone maybe more mid-level / junior, and you want to get more hands-on experience, I would say, yeah, absolutely worth delving into the code, delving into the deep learning frameworks, understanding the risks and biases of these models. And, I think it's really good. I might be biased, but I really enjoy learning about these things, and I think it has strengthened me as a clinician when it comes to AI, because I can really see the shortcomings and the potentials of these models in different departments.
And if you're looking at the senior people, so just to maybe provide some resources for both groups, if you're looking at the senior people, what would you say are good resources for them to look at? How would they learn what they need? So how would they learn that general overview? Like while you were learning about AI, what did you find that it's good and helping you?
Yeah, so I did a number of courses. So I did the Andrew Ng course, but like you said, that's quite technical and maths heavy, so I wouldn't start on that. I did some Coursera courses. I think it's some basic like AI in healthcare, and then there was this, I think there's a machine learning that was like Stanford backed course called Fundamentals of Machine Learning in Healthcare. That was a neat introduction. And then we also had this kind of internal course from King's College London, run by a few of our colleagues. That was like an introduction to healthcare. I think have a look around, but I think starting kind of more high level in those Coursera courses or Stanford courses is good. And then maybe later on, if you wanted to, you can dabble in the Andrew Ng courses.
I agree. I would add on that there are not that many courses that are focused on these high level. So that are focused on people who basically want to understand machine learning, understand deep learning, understand AI, and just get a very broad overview of the different fields and know the basics. There are not many courses like that. No. You have some books that are, again, like a lot of the things for machine learning AI are very like go in detail. If you want to learn about AI in detail, you want to make your own models, there is a million courses. Like you can just write on YouTube a course for whatever you can imagine. There is one teaching you how to do that AI task. But this podcast is the best you can find to really learn the high level parts, because I do think we are trying to focus on the clinical side.
Yeah, I mean, that is literally one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this, because when I started, it took me 3 months before I could deliver anything of value. And I was looking all over the web. I was looking everywhere. They're really, like you said, it's either all or nothing. There's like nothing, there's no soft introductions. It's just literally in-depth technical or nothing. Yeah. And I think this is the first barrier actually where most of the clinicians fall, because they hear about AI, they want to learn, and they look around and there really is not that much. And if they want to go into, if they start the Andrew Ng lecture and he talks about, gradient descent and, really in-depth back propagation algorithms, like it just goes over your head. Like I had no idea what he was talking about, but I really had to push through and listen many, many times before I started having an idea of what he was talking about. So I think this podcast hopefully will help some of the clinicians to gain a base understanding and start that journey into the AI revolution in healthcare.
Yeah, and I think irrelevant if someone a senior, a director or something, or a junior and want to delve deep, I think for all sides it is nice to get a bit of the coding experience, at least some basics. And the only difference is that you don't need to dive deep. I think the only difference between that junior who wants to understand everything and that senior who wants to know the basics is how deep do you go. And the same will probably go for the machine learning side. You can listen to the Andrew Ng course, and especially the one on Coursera, which is much, much simpler. But you maybe can just listen to the lectures. You don't need to do the every exercise where you are implementing backpropagation. So there is a lot of these courses that you can do on a slightly more basic side, even though it's the same course. You are just approaching it slightly
in a more relaxed, casual way, kind of.
Yeah, and you'll still learn a lot. And I think for seniors also, it is very. You don't need to be able to train the model. You don't need to be able to deploy the model. But it would be awesome if, I don't know, you're already playing with ChatGPT. You are trying it and you've tried Stable Diffusion, which is the imaging-based models, or implementing and trying that model is very, very simple. So for a lot of those, you have really the Jupyter Notebook, the code provided, and you just run it step by step and it's done. You can, with 5 lines of code, have a Llama model running in Jupyter Colab, in Google Colab. Yeah, and no matter your seniority, it's nice, I think, to have that and to just see the model working itself. So like to see how it does, and then you understand, I think, much better.
Yeah, and that is our next tip. It's basically finding a small project to basically understand those skills. You don't have to code it from scratch, but like Joko said, there are many different projects out there. Like one good one that you signposted me to, Joko, was the one that Andrei Karpathy, he's a really famous coder, but he had a Google Colab where he basically trained his own GPT model on Shakespeare text.
Yes.
And that was really fun for me because I could see the steps and I could tweak some of the code and play around, and I had a much better understanding of how GPT models are actually trained.
Yeah, so Andrei Karpathy, he's like really famous. He's also was the director of AI in Tesla and is now in OpenAI and all of that. So, and what I love about his approach, and why am I also saying this, that everyone should at least know the basics, is that he was the head of AI and he was still implementing models himself. So I think there is something in understanding the model in detail. There is something in making it yourself, and then you really understand it. Then you can also apply it. Then you also know all the details, and you learn a million things by doing it. And his series on YouTube, which is like 5-6 videos,
it's very good.
Is one of the best. That's especially made for like large language models and transformers. You're basically building GPT from the ground up in those 5-6 lessons, but it is very, very nice. But this is not easy. So this one, even though he's explaining everything in detail, requires some coding skills, requires some knowledge of like linear algebra, requires stats, requires ML. So there is a bit of, you do this a bit down the road. You don't start with this.
Yeah. And that brings us to tip 4. So if you find it hard to follow these YouTubers, tip 4 is find a team. So find someone in your hospital or a nearby university, or reach out to different AI clinical fellowships, or there's always fellowships in the industry as well, where you can take a bit of time to work with a team that is proficient in AI. And, you offer value as well as a clinician, but then you can also learn from them. So that is one of the main tips. Find someone, find a team, or even just reach out to me or Joko. We're happy to help.
I agree with that. So I think finding a team is very important, and you want a team that is much more proficient in AI, people that can help you. So you bring the clinical knowledge and you have someone bringing in the AI knowledge. I would always work with people like that. So whenever someone is there and they say, I can dedicate 10-20 hours a week to this, let's create a project. I know this is a thing that needs to be solved. So I know the clinical problem. Can we solve it with AI? If we can, then I'm always happy to join hands and do it together. And I am sure every other AI developer will also say something similar, or will try to join a project on the side if they cannot fully commit.
Yeah. I think as a clinician, you do have value. That's the one thing I want to stress. Like when you come to our team or different teams, you do offer value because you come with a lens that you know what the problem is, but you can also help us validate our model and curate data sets to train a better model for your problem. So, it's a two-way street, and I would urge you, if you were interested, to reach out to people in your area.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
finally, you have also, you have also a lot of these Discord groups or forums and all of that, where you can even just find AI people that are interested in joining a project or that want to work together. AI people, like a lot of them, are publishing basically everything they do open source on GitHub and all of that. So many are looking for projects on the side or for something interesting, and a lot, I'm guaranteeing this, a lot will want to join healthcare projects. If you come with an idea or at least a couple of ideas that you want to discuss, many developers will want to do that, want to discuss, want to open source it later. All of this is dependent, of course, on open sourcing that later and having both sides benefit and the public.
Yeah. So do you go on Discord and just post there and say, is it like a forum? You can just post what you want or what you can offer, and then they'll get in touch.
No, you have many of these groups. Yeah. You have, for example, like Hugging Face has one of the biggest ones where AI people are meeting. You have, we can post a couple of them, but there is like hundreds of them where people are meeting and just discussing about ML stuff. And you can come with an idea and say, like, I'm a doctor looking to do a small project on the side to learn, and is someone willing to join? I'm sure you'll find someone.
Yeah. And that brings us to the last tip I have, which is perseverance. It's not easy. We have covered a lot in this episode of things that you learn despite whatever level you want to come in. It's not an easy task, and it does take time. But, as a nurse or a doctor or a physio, like, you have gone through higher education. You're capable of studying years and years and passing exams. I think I've met a lot of clinicians that think maybe it would be easier, and they come in and they hope they can, get involved in health tech and AI very quickly. But, like I said, it took me 3 months to get up to scratch. I was just sitting there every day, just coding, reading about machine learning, reading research papers. So it does take a lot of commitment, but I do promise you, it is worth it. So do persevere and really try to, I think, know your intention when you come in, like know why you want to do it, and let that intention kind of carry you through.
I completely agree. It is hard, of course. It will take time, but the reward at the end is awesome. So I think it pays off 100% to do it. So in the end, if we just want to summarize these, the 5 steps that we have, maybe we start. So with step 1 is understanding the basics of simply coding. You can use something like DataCamp for that. Understanding the basics of machine learning and deep learning. You can find either a course from Andrew Wing on Coursera, or basically just do a bit of YouTube searching and find one of the channels that are doing a crash course in AI. Don't worry too much. This is just to understand the basics, irrelevant of your level. Then you probably want to think about a project. You learned some basics, so you now want to find a project where this can be applied. Find something in healthcare, find something that you are interested in, that you know a lot about, that you will benefit from, and that, of course, your patients will benefit from. Find that project, try to find a team to do that together with, either online, or I'm sure if you are a university hospital or close to a university, that you'll find many students that want to do something like that. And finally, just do it. Just stick to it, do it. Persevere. It will take time, but the result will be awesome.
Yes. So I hope I've given you some useful tips, and I'd love to hear from yourself if you're a clinician who is getting into AI. I'd love to hear your journey. Please share and comment and let us know if our tips were helpful to you. And that pretty much wraps up the episode.
Thank you very much for listening. We hope to see you next week.
Yeah, and like and subscribe.
True.
See you. Bye.